Let's just start this with the first question. I mean, maybe I want to just throw something into the pot before we go into that discussion. I think the big thing here is that if you're an intermediary now in the space, it all looks just so overwhelmingly big. It is there's just so much. It's coming at you fast. Everybody is saying, you must do this, you must do that. Everybody's knocking on the door with solutions. Everybody that you sit chatting with has a different view as to how you should be approaching this. And, you know, most people haven't even got a full grasp. Well, I think very few people have a full grasp of the extent of AI and the availability, but even as to how you actually access it, how do you get into it, and so on, which is quite a complex process. So I just want to, before we start the questions and so on, and throw into the space maybe a little bit of an example as to one doesn't necessarily has to go full on into this whole space. I spoke earlier on about the joining the dots, and that's evaluating where you are, what your own business model is, where you fit into this broader ecosystem, etc. And then looking at from your business perspective as to how do you play in this ecosystem, in this environment that you fit into. And I just want to give two examples. They might look distinctly different, but in some way they actually speak to the same thing. If you go into a restaurant environment, long time ago in my background, I was heavily into the restaurant industry, etc. It's still a passion of mine. And but just look at running a French cuisine restaurant that charges a huge price, very sophisticated food, massive memory, a menu, massive stock on hand, very specialized staff, highly paid chefs, and you charge a big price for what you're selling. People go there for that specific thing. They look at sophisticated food, that's their expectation, and that's what you're providing them. And so that is your focus. On the other hand, let's say you have a small Italian bistro on a corner. It's run by mom and pop. It's called Simply Italian. You get an email, or you go in and you find out that it's reservation only. There's no menu. They cook what you get when you go in, and that's what you eat. And I know specifically of examples where that type of restaurant is highly profitable, very popular, and it attracts, it's got a full complement of people every single night. Very cheap to run, low menu, very low stock. They prepare what they think is available at the best price, etc. Two completely different approaches to running a restaurant and to doing business. And both can work very well with the proprietors of that business, because that's where they want to play. That is their ecosystem. That's their outlook to how they want to do business and what they do. And they may both make it work very well. So there's no one size fits all in the intermediary space and in the insurance space as well. Intermediaries should look at what fits for what suits them and what works for them. So that's one sort of thing I just want to put in your minds when you look at this now. Don't be overwhelmed with these sort of discussions and what is coming at you. The second one is something that's very interesting to me. I used to be in the bank assurance space as a product development and distribution, and for one of the big banks. And what is very interesting to me is that Capitec recently launched, I think it was in 2021, if I'm not mistaken, or 2020, they launched their funeral insurance They currently have 1.7 million policies on the books. In 2021, they were selling 85,000 funeral policies a month. In 2022, they were selling 97,000 funeral policies a month. They focused on that. They fitted it into their digital ecosystem, and that's what they selling. And Capitec's business model, as you all know, has been a simple, straightforward model, highly digitized, moving customers that everyone previously think, or clients, as they said, everyone previously think those clients should be face-to-face. They move them all straight onto digital, mobile, and everybody manages that way. So there are different ways to do it, depending on the space that you're playing and the ecosystem that you're playing in. So I think that's just, for me, just a little bit of a positioning in terms of how we should be or could be looking at the intermediate space. This, one thing that I wanted to, we got a question in the during your talk to say, why haven't intermediaries embraced this yet, if it is such a convincing and a sort of, you have to do this? Why haven't intermediaries then embraced it? What would you, what would your approach be to that?
What would my answer be to that? Probably two answers. So we'll break it up into two parts. Why haven't intermediaries embraced AI, ML? And why haven't intermediaries embraced sort of digitization and automation and direct in general? Okay. I think the answer to the first one, AI and ML, it's easy, you know. Up until 2022, 2023, this was something in the labs. It wasn't out there in real life, you know. And we had this major breakthrough that made it accessible. And, you know, OpenAI put a front end to that called Chat GPT, and people were able to very easily engage with Chat GPT without needing to have, you know, being able to program an interface, APIs, and all of that sort of stuff. So, and it was very good. You know, it was very good, and it was effective. So you got this massive spike in people adopting it and understanding it and using it really easily. No one trained me on how to use ChatGPT, or you. I'm sure no one trained us on how to use Claude. No one trained us on how to use, you know. So it's easy, and it's now attracting massive amounts of investment. That's it's going to take us. That's, I think the horizon is too short, and that's why people haven't yet fully embraced AI and ML. But I can tell you this: people are using AI and ML right now, just not to the extent that I've described in there. I think my kids are using it. Lots of people in our office are using it. I use it. So it's being used. You go to dinner parties and cocktail parties around the braai, you know, everyone's got a view and opinion about it. So it's going to get there. Why haven't intermediaries digitized and gone direct to clients and made everything, you know, online and marketplaces and self-service, you know, like the banks have gone and so on? I think there's a couple of points I'd make. I mean, I personally know. I mean, like I said, you know, we started our digital journey 5 years ago, and we've now almost fully digitized and built a marketplace of most of the insurance value chain. But it's taken us a long time and a lot of money. And many times along that road, you have these dark moments of doubt. Geez, you know, it's a lot of money and it's a lot of effort. Will it ever, you know, pay the dividends and so on? So it's long, it's expensive, and it's hard. It's like most other tech endeavors, and there's lots of failures along the way. But most of the bigger intermediaries have, and when you look internationally, you know, if you look at it internationally, Willis Towers Watson, Aon, Marsh, whoever, the big guys, Lloyd's have got a digital strategy for the last 5 years as well, and probably the last 4 years or so. Everyone's now doing that. The guys who've got the capital are investing in it. It's very difficult for a single small mom and pop type brokerage to go and invest in this. And that's why we need ecosystems. We need software as a service, platforms as a service, digital marketplaces that can be opened or closed in terms of what it's offering. That's opened up to brokers and so on, and then they will adopt it. We up until now haven't had that. That, you know, you look at the big lemonade in the US the last 2 or 3 years. So even South Africa, the well-known ones, you know, whether it's Naked or Pineapple, Everything.insure, people are starting to adopt it, but brokers can't and don't have access to those because those are proprietary solutions for those specific organizations. So I think when we get the marketplace ecosystem solutions, brokers will adopt it, I think. And insurers also need to adopt it. And because a lot of insurers, I mean, I don't know how many of you have tried to integrate using APIs to any one of our major insurers in South Africa. It is extremely difficult, and it's shifting sands, you know, changes on a regular basis, and that sort of stuff. So I think for the intermediary to be successful, that part of it has to be solved as well. I mean, we've taken a lot of pain trying to build those integrations and make it work seamlessly and efficiently. You know, we just got a license in India, and we launched Everything.insure in India, and we're going through the same process there. It's interestingly a little easier in India because insurance is a lot more standardized. You know, but we've got to build, I don't know, 27 different interfaces and APIs to connect to the insurers before we can launch. So I think, sorry, it's a long answer, but I think that's why to date, Tony, intermediaries haven't yet embraced it, in my view.
Thank you, Viz. Marcia, that's where you guys come in, because you have these conversations with the insurers and intermediaries to sort of determine the software that you provide, the platforms that you provide. What is that ecosystem going to look like? How are you going to accommodate intermediaries, or how are the intermediaries going to accommodate the ecosystem? Maybe you can share a little bit of your view on that.
Thank you, Tony. And again, thank you for having me, and welcome to all the participants. Yes, I agree with Viz. There's a myriad of things that we have to consider in terms of this adaptation, and how do we stay relevant as an intermediary, and especially from our perspective at SSP, working with insurers directly. There are quite a lot of concepts that one has to consider about agility, because what's happening in our dynamic market at the moment, we've got AI, as we were talking, but we have the low-code, no-code approaches that are also becoming essential. So before going into that, I think the most important thing is, what is your appetite? As we said, it's not going to suit every ecosystem, and you have to have a clear understanding of where you are heading as an insurer. The big insurers have the capital to make use of software platforms such as ours that we do, that focus specifically on these type of ecosystems and putting the customer in the front line, and to stay relevant in this insurance market. But what makes you relevant, and how do you get there? So I think the first very important thing is to be able to quickly adapt to this evolving market demands, especially what we've seen now with customers and our new customer base that's coming on with the new generation, is that they do want a digital aspect about it. But in other circumstances, you have clients with a claims, maybe a claim outstanding that is not following the normal process that a digital process will allow, and it's very sensitive. So it is a hybrid model in terms of having your digitalization. Can you afford it? But how do you still serve the customer? Because you're going to have a very different ecosystem and combination of customers that you are trying to serve. So it's definitely evolving into that market, making sure that you are actually within your grasp and your capabilities and capacity that you have, to redefine this. So it involves continuous innovation and definitely making sure that you stay ahead of the curve and refine existing solutions for your insurance client and their digital transformation journey based on retaining and attracting more clients. Because at the end of the day, as Viz said with Kodak Moment, what is your plan? Do you want to exist? Do you want to evolve? If so, start looking at your strategy. And with that strategy, it's not just the C-suite. It's not just the decision makers. It's not one department's responsibility to look at what we need to do. It involves everybody, because the digital transformation is going to have an impact on your claims management department in order how claims are going to be handled. Your financial department's going to be involved. Reinsurance becomes affected through this. So having a clear understanding as a whole and a totality, looking at your system and what you can do. And then secondly, I think agility personifies flexibility in problem solving. That's the big thing, is enabling a software provider to provide a customized offering. That's where the key comes in. What do I want? What do I need? And what can I afford right now? So it looks like this big mountain, but we can step back and say, well, let's look at our system. Is it a legacy system? Does it work? Does it serve with where we are going with AI, chatbots, and all those things that clients are expecting? Or do we need to start looking at transforming our own solution, our own platform, to make sure that we address these unique challenges faced by a diverse client base that we're looking at? And I think when looking at this, it's innovation. So we hear all these things and they do sound daunting. I mean, I've been in this industry now for 2 decades, and the problem stays the same. First of all, we want to be relevant. We want to stay abreast of what's going on. We want to provide our clients with that solution, but it's the how. And the how is sometimes just going back. Take your steps back a bit and looking at your own insurance platform, because you must be able to swiftly respond to market opportunities and launch new products in record time. I think that is also very important. How quick can you make the change when you identify a challenge where your customers are not happy in terms of changing this whole ecosystem and to retain them? And then template rules and integrated processes definitely empower the business user and reducing that time to market and enhance efficiency. And I know there's also spoke about API layers and how daunting they can get, but it is, as an example, looking at a API layer and making sure that you get a software provider's API layer which facilitates seamless interactions between your brokers, your intermediaries, your insured parties, reducing that administration costs, because that is definitely a cost where digitalization is a positive, because it takes away that time spent on things. When yesterday one of the speakers spoke that if I am putting in a claim, my information should already be there. I shouldn't have to fill it in 5 times or ask the same question 5 times. So looking at reducing that administration cost, and rather than enhance your service quality. So by being agile, we can quickly adapt to a changing market demand, and from a technology advancement, ensure that those API layers remains cutting edge and effective.
Thank you, Marcia. If I just take what you said about taking a step back and then going to what Viz said. Viz, you spoke about intermediaries looking at and where they should focus as to more value-added things, non-administrative, not just providing access to insurers. So if we take that as sort of the outlook, because that's where the intermediary really comes in. And we play that off against the constraints that we have to digitalization in the intermediated space. And, you know, we did a broker survey, and some of the things that came out is the main one was cost. And the second one was time, and then skills. But if you overlay that, there's old school thinking, and there are legacy processes and systems embedded in that intermediary business, etc. So if you take this now and you go back to the broker focusing on value-added things, how do you as an intermediary or a distribution business, how do you see the average intermediary, and I'm not talking about Marsh and Aon and so on, how do you see them still digitizing in some limited way, but sticking to that more value-added things and not just being an in-between for the customer?
Yeah, thanks, Tony. I mean, it's going to be difficult, right? You know, for everyone to make the right strategic choices as we make our way through this. But we got to have to first ask the question: what's our North Star as a company? Or a mom and pop brokerage? What's the end game? What do we want to? Where are we trying to get to? And your investment and your efforts, projects that you do and so on, need to align with that. So if you've got a short horizon, you're going to get out of the industry in 5 years' time or so, you probably can get away with not doing too much different to what you're. Or if you're going to play in the very high-end, bespoke, advisory type risk management brokerage space, you can probably get away without too much of tech enablement. But the people who want to be in the game and grow and be here for longer than a very short horizon, you've got a few choices, I think, and that are now available to you. Digitizing is one aspect, and we all should be largely digitized right now, but we're not, because that technology has been reasonably mature for a fairly long time. So you don't send me a paper form now, you send me a digital form, and there's some workflow built into it and all of that sort of stuff. That's not very expensive, and that can be done. And then all the stuff I spoke about around the AIs that are going to be able to do a whole lot of things for you, like some of the stuff that the large language models, the chat GPTs and so on are capable of doing right now. It's not expensive. I mean, to get the advanced version of chat GPT and Gemini and Claude, I think they're all similar price. It's about $20 a month. Now that's 400 Rand is not expensive, I think, Tony, for what you're going to get in return for that. So I think you can start to use those technologies and get some of that benefit very soon, right now. You might need someone to hold your hand through it. You might need some consultants, but you don't really. It's like nobody taught me how to use Excel, or nobody taught me how to use a browser. Nobody taught me how to use ChatGPT, and nobody taught me how. So I think most people are going to just teach themselves and get going with this thing and use it. And then more and more people are going to be building what's called agents with specific capabilities and duties and knowledge, and they're going to make that available, and you use it on the internet, and it's not going to cost you much at all. So those are the two things that you can look out for, can start using now, and and will happen. But if you're looking to end-to-end digitized, fully automated, AI integrated, deep learning integrated, marketplace, digital online, clients able to self-serve across the full life cycle and that sort of stuff, my recommendation is you got to join a marketplace that gives you that ability, or a tech platform, a SaaS provider that gives you that ability right now. And as Marsha said, they've they have that capability and they continue to build that capability. There's a few out there you're going to need to find, and you need to put pressure on your tech providers, whether it's Teal or Genesis or SSP or whoever it is, for them to make this available to you. And it's going to be, their responsibility to start to enable their systems that way. So some stuff you can do yourself, some stuff's quite cheap. Other stuff you need to join a platform, marketplace that provides it for you, is what I'd say.
Thank you, Viz. I think, and Marcia, this is sort of playing into your space as well, although Viz, from your bio, I know this is very much your thing as well. If you really want to do business with somebody and you want them to, in this case, insurers wanting to do business through intermediaries, you have to prepare the market. In other words, you have to take the intermediaries with you into the space of digitization. And again, I know there are lots of intermediaries that have already started in this process, that have crossed over, but there's also a lot of challenges and difficulty for them. How do, as a business developer, and this is the same with you approaching insurers or intermediaries, how do you create a digital mindset? How do you take them into that space where, one tends to think conventional about your business, but now you need to think different. You need to think digital, and you need to look at all of these things from a completely different perspective. How do you suggest insurers go about doing that, and how do you suggest intermediaries sort of enter that mind space?
That's a very good question, and it's definitely multifaceted. So, as I mentioned before, what are your needs? Where are you aiming to go? And what is your capital layout that you're looking at? So, first, identifying where are the gaps that you can enhance to better your customer experience. Because at the end of the day, we're doing all of this in terms of keeping and retaining our customers, giving our customers the expectation and the experience that they've become accustomed to. Because as we say, we can do many things. And myself, I'm also, even with my degree in communication, I love ChatGPT and I use it very often when I do research. So we all do use it. And there's an expectation that the answers, the outcomes must also be as quick as we are getting from all these AI platforms that we can use at the moment. So key would be to understand as an insurer, where are we? Are we still on a legacy system? Are we creating a bottleneck? Are we not getting and using claims? Because I think that's the main place where customers really decide if they're going to stay with the insurer or not. And it's that experience. So definitely having a look at the current system and what is required. So going through a journey together, working on a solution validation phase, and understanding the talent that is currently within the company to be able to adapt to this digitalization. So definitely prioritizing ongoing research and development and ensuring that ourselves as service providers within the software platform environment remain at the forefront of emerging technologies and market trends. And this investment in innovation allows us then to anticipate evolving needs and craft cutting-edge solutions for that client. So it's a constant journey. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It's understanding where you are going. One insurance company might have 50 clients, and others have 20,000. And how do you make sure that your system is not just able to deal with such a big insurance profile and portfolio, but also if we are looking, a lot of these insurers work across countries. So multi-currency aspects coming in, and are they able to adopt to a multi-currency platform to accommodate the customers in that specific need. And then obviously, secondly, is fostering a culture of agility within the organization. You have to be willing to have a look and explore what the opportunities out there are. Are you confident enough to build your own platform to meet these expectations? Or is buying a platform a better option for you? And looking at even that, build versus buy. Where is it, a cloud-based solution that you're looking for, or on-premise solution? And so it's not as easy as going online, looking at a provider, what they offer, and then plug and play. It's really understanding what that needs are and working it from a phased approach. So that culture of agility within the organization will then empower the teams also to adapt swiftly to changing requirements and market dynamics. Because we do have to understand, as we said, with insurance and looking at employment, you want to make sure that your employees are also comfortable to adapt to the new way of doing. And that's a digital way of doing. And without them feeling threatened that this could have an impact on their value as an employee within the company, but rather strengthening that. At the end, looking at the customer, identifying from a human perspective challenges within the process that you've built, and quickly be able to change those to adapt and really then bring the value that the customer is looking at. And then thirdly, definitely prioritizing scalability and flexibility in the solution architecture. That definitely enables seamless evolution and alignment with the client's business. And I think that is the most important thing. And as I said, it's not just the responsibility from a C-suite perspective, but all aspects of it, so that you do not create another challenge in another area. So looking at it and in a totality is definitely a key point. And then obviously always putting strong emphasis on customer feedback and co-initiation, ensuring that the solution remains relevant and effective in this changing environment. So you can definitely, when approaching a software provider as ourselves, or there are many of our colleagues out there and different companies, but definitely having that conversation with them in what your goal is, where you want to go, how do you see yourself stay relevant, and then leveraging all these data-driven insights and predictive analytics that's built into this digitalization. And that becomes key, because you can monitor it. You can see where your challenges are, where you can perhaps enhance that service. And that's where software providers proactively identify those opportunities for that innovation, and future-proofing then the insurer's solution against those emerging challenges. So it is quite a lot of aspects, but I think it is about understanding your own business, where you want to go, and then having that discussion with a provider who will be able to customize that need, that digital need, according to where you are going and what your appetite is.
Thank you, Marcia. Yeah, it is a bit like a big menu of stuff that you have to choose. When I looked, did a bit of research on, the specific areas of digitization, where the focus potentially could be for solutions, I came up with digital onboarding, interactive workflow, and digital policies. There was definitely artificial intelligence and machine learning. There was mobile technology and user experience solutions. It was big data and analytics. It was real-time insurance quote and comparisons, claims management, and then risk assessment tools. Those were sort of the main categories that came up for us. Now, Viz, if you sort of take your first equity hat off a little bit and you look at the the sort of general intermediaries space, where in that sort of menu should they start looking? Is there a specific area that they should start with to evaluate their business? Is there a specific low-hanging fruit digitization process that they could follow? How do you see that?
Yeah. You know, not to keep reverting to this, but they've got to have the end in mind. So what are they trying to achieve? Because some intermediaries need to get scale, so they want to grow. And some of them are looking for efficiency, and that's more important. So we're looking for a 30% PAT margin, and we had a 18 at the moment. That'll be a different digital initiative to we had 35% PAT, but our top line is too low. We want to grow. So then I need to focus on the digital aspects of strategies around that. So maybe at a high level, that's the first thing for both insurers and brokers. What are you trying to achieve? And then within each of those two spaces, there's a lot you can currently do. Now, the one thing I'd encourage all of them to do is put pressure on their software providers. That's the first thing. If your software provider is not giving you this, they are failing. And the basic digitization stuff should have been in place already. I didn't need AI, I didn't need ML, that sort of stuff. The workflow stuff, we've been doing that for 20 years, automating workflow and that sort of stuff. So you start to put pressure on your product providers to provide this for you. That's the second thing I would say. And then, in terms of where within those two things, you will have to have a certain level of base digitization within your organization before you're going to be able to go and do, game-changing stuff in digital marketing. So you can't go if all you're trying to do is lead generate digitally, then you can, and there are ways to do that, and then it often just becomes a rand swapping game in my view. The more I spend on Google Max or pay-per-click or one of those things, the more leads I get, the quality of the leads are questionable, etc., etc., etc. That's a game all by itself. If you're going to go down that road, strongly recommend you have a partner with you who is au fait with that digital marketing, because it is a dark art. I've learned that over the last year or two. It is such a dark art, and it's even on the spending side, it's asymmetrical. You think if I spend 10,000 rands a month and I get 10,000 rands worth of annuity commission out of that, that's okay. And if I spend 20,000, I should get 20, and etc. if it's one-to-one. But what you actually find is that it's asymmetrical. And I start to spend 100 and a million, and I'm not getting 100 or a million, I'm getting a lot less. Because of that, again, it's quite a dark art. As I said, in Google, you move into different bidding pools that way, people are bidding a lot higher than you, etc., etc. So you need a partner if you're trying to do lead generation digitally. If you're trying to sell digitally online yourself, you need to have your processes digitized. You need to have your products digitized. You need to have your pricing digitized. Very difficult for a small broker to do. It has to be your system provider who does that for you, is what I'd say. And then, all getting efficiencies within your organization. It's going to be a world of agents in the future. 10 years ago, there was a Harvard Business Review article that said it's going to be a world of APIs. It is a world of APIs, not to the extent that we thought 10 years ago. We're still kind of getting there, but the future is going to be, it's going to be a world of agents that are doing things for you. So the first evolution of those are going to be customer service agents that we can do. So from chatbots that can answer questions and so on, but the more sophisticated version of the chatbot, not a FAQ kind of thing where you ask a question, if that question is in my database, my bot can answer it. If that question is not in my database in exactly the way you've asked it, I can't answer it. So you need to use AI, you need to use natural language programming, you need to use those technologies, and getting an agent built. Now, a lot of you can either build your own, or you're going to be getting people who are providing you the agent. So I'd say buying an agent is probably a good thing to start thinking about doing, or renting an agent, a customer service agent. You can do that now. There are companies that are there. They can either custom build, and it's quick to build an agent. It's, from days to a month or two is what it takes, and not that expensive. So you can build customer service agents, and they start to, I've got lots of case studies and examples I can share with you, where these agents are doing 70, 80, 90% of what real customer service agents are doing in the past. So it can literally give you that order of magnitude efficiency improvement. We've done some exercises and modeling where we looked at using our digital models, digital ways of doing things. I mean, if you just take in a South African context, a typical broker, whatever you call him in your organization, internal broker on personal lines or something like that, they can handle anywhere between 500 and 1,000 clients, depending on how efficient your service is. And, in Nedbank days, we managed to get it much higher, but that was because it was a very simple product and that sort of stuff. I think it's 500, somewhere around there to 1,000. Through digital enablement, we see that you're getting something like a particular member of staff, broker, customer service, can go from 500 to 1,000 clients to 3,000 to 4,000 clients that they can handle. So that's the order of magnitude you're going to get there through that digital. And you can, as I said, you can get commission someone to build you an agent right now. They're quite affordable. It's cheaper, much cheaper than employing a person. So those are probably the easy ways. And then the other thing is pressure on your service providers and pressure on the insurers. As you said, Tony, earlier, how do insurers bring brokers along on this journey? There's a lot that insurers can, should, and are trying to do. The problem is just that in the insurance sector, we were categorized as laggards by either PwC or Bain study. We're not great at doing tech in insurance. And it's easier for the insurers to solve the problem for their tied agents, but it's a little more difficult to solve the problem for independent brokers. Because if I've got a solution from Santam, I've got a solution from Allianz, I've got a solution from Mutual and Federal or Old Mutual, etc., and my people have got to learn 15 different systems to use. So it's difficult for insurers to provide that solution to independent brokers. That's why marketplaces and platforms need to provide that. But I think what insurers can do is that, and this is what I see happening as an evolution into the future, is that insurers are going to be buying and building AI-driven agents of their own. And Santam will give your brokerage a AI-driven agent, and Hollard will give you one, etc., and that agents start to do that work within a brokerage. So these are, that's the way I see that going. So it's starting to put pressure on insurers to provide that enablement as well. Those are the areas I'd say.
Oh, fascinating, Marcia. I saw you sort of nodding there when Vis spoke about putting pressure on your provider. Is somebody putting pressure on you guys as well?
Well, I absolutely agree with Viz and echo it. So very important, two aspects of it. Yes, you should be getting what you're paying for. It's a lengthy journey to make these changes from an insurer perspective, and it is all about the support that your provider is giving you. And when you have this type of digitalization within your platform, you should be getting a rich functionality across your underwriting processes, your claims, finance, and reinsurance. That's not even a negotiable. You should be getting that already, and very effortlessly. And then also being able to have a self-sufficiency tool for crafting customized solutions. Because at the end of the day, your provider brings a solution on board. A lot of these can be trained to the right individuals that can make these changes, so that codependency is not always necessary, but you as the insurer can then shape this, first of all, very quickly, but always with the support of your provider, and keeping your provider really honest in making sure that the solution is actually being delivered. And then also within this, that your APIs are seamlessly connected externally, so that you can provide these additional benefits that you want to do in terms of your chatbots, your agents, and AI-enabled solutions. And then I'll also, tailor your web portals for user-specific access. And I hear what this says, because currently within ourselves, we have a broker portal that's part of the solution for the insurer. But the brokers are now faced with many different portals that they have to learn to be able to use them. So I agree definitely from that perspective. For a broker, the agent solution sounds fantastic, and definitely something we should push more, we should embrace more, to give the brokers also the opportunity to still be there and have the opportunity to grow their business and stay relevant. So, so it definitely, from that perspective, very important to have that ability and to stay relevant, and making sure that however your platform's working, whatever your focus is going to be in terms of how are we going to do this, do it fully and keep your provider and service provider honest to fulfilling that demand and your end goal.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Marsha. Tony, I see we've got a question. Shouldn't we look at the downfalls to financial and business controls? I'm assuming the sort of the potential risks at integrating this tech, perhaps.
Marsha, maybe you want to comment on that?
So from a platform perspective, very important. And as I mentioned before, these type of decisions when looking at a software platform to help you streamline your business, optimize it. Sometimes those individuals are forgotten. So we all look at the IT department and say, all right, this is what we want to do. How are we going to do it? But there are many risks to take into consideration, like your financial department, unauthorized claims, fraudulent claims. And within this platform, the downfalls can be mitigated. And I hope I'm answering this right for you. Please let me know if not. But it is all about having a work process in place, even if it's from a sign off or an authority phased approach within your system, where if a claim is approved, for instance, that the sole responsibility does not just lie with that agent, that there is definitely a phased approach that goes to the manager, and finance signs it off in terms of the profile, the claim, and the cost, and also the reinsurance that kicks in. So that is where customization for me is key. So if that is a downfall, that is definitely the conversation you should have with your provider that's assisting you on your platform, to make sure that certain rules are built into your system to make sure that those risks are avoided. And the nice thing about it is that there are many reports you can pull off off your software, so you can immediately see if there is a financial risk that's been overlooked. You can immediately, in real time, change your rule quickly to adapt to ensure that that does not occur again. So I would say definitely that is a downfall, but it's an opportunity to make sure that you can adapt your process in your system and put the right methods in place to alleviate and completely avoid that, preferably.
Yeah, I think it's probably time to wrap up. It was a fascinating discussion. I think what sort of stands out for me is that basically look at what your biggest pain point is, look at what your client's biggest pain point is, and then start sifting sort of for solutions and looking at what potential solutions are available, what could be available. And then, reading through everything that's been said, you know, the need is for a digital mindset. There's a great need for personalization. Should be a focus on risk management, risk assessment, and you need to find your place in the ecosystem and be connected. This is example of the marketplace, probably one of the best ways to fit into the ecosystem and to be connected. But certainly, yeah, no direct answers to intermediaries' challenges, but lots of solutions available and lots of different approaches. And yeah, it's up to every intermediary to discuss with their system provider, discuss with their insurer, and discuss internally in their business with their staff, partners, etc., as to how they tackle this digitization process. So this, Marcia, thank you so much. It was really interesting to chat to you and to unpack this topic. Thank you.